So, David, how do you feel that the BDA Symposium has gone today? Do you think the event was what you wanted it to be?
Well, I think it's really important for us to be here with an event like this today because times are changing and we need to be more focused and to have a more streamlined approach to help the community. Different organisations and companies and also the deaf clubs themselves to see that it's the right time to move forward. That's what today's symposium is all about, to find ways to work together because the BDA can't do this all by itself, finding ways to network with each other to achieve success, which will ultimately change deaf people's lives.
That's wonderful. So do you see this as being an annual event or just a one-off today?
Well, this conference is just the first step, really. We need to plan for the future, and that in itself is challenging. By working together, we can get things moving, but if that isn't the case, we will have to do things the hard way. Many deaf organisations are in a similar position facing financial difficulties with funding in the current climate. We need to focus our time on building relationships and communication with each other which will stand us in good stead. I'm not just talking about organisations here, but also deaf people themselves are equally important. We need to encourage more people to take BDA membership. After all, there is strength in numbers. And with a larger membership, the government will have to sit up and take notice. Governments require evidence of those who are speaking up, and at present this isn't coming from the deaf community. We need deaf people to tell them what's important in their lives.
So do you plan to have more BDA members in the future, or is this something new now?
Well, we have a new membership scheme which now includes a copy of our magazine, which was not previously included. We hope that deaf people will want to become members, as the magazine includes information about what is going on in the community. However, as we know, some of our members do not access information in written English very well, so we are also developing a bilingual website where news and information will be displayed in BSL. It's going to be a challenging development for us, and we need to gather the resources and funding to make this happen.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
What a great opportunity to speak with the Chief Executive of the BDA. We'll be back with some more interviews later on. Bye for now. Hi Memnos, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
So it's a bit of a role reversal. I'm going to interview you instead of you interviewing people.
Oh, I think I'll cope.
Excellent. So, how have you found today? I know you've been working at the BDA Symposium. What's been your highlight of the day?
Well, BSL was recognised 9 years ago, which was great at the time. However, nothing has really happened since then, so it's the right time now for this event. Throughout the day, important information has kept cropping up, and it's really made me think about things I hadn't really considered up to now. It seems that bringing us all together has got us to put our thinking caps on, got us rolling up our sleeves and getting stuck into contributing, which is vital. And it feels good.
That's great. So how do you feel the last 9 years up to now? Do you feel this event today is very different?
Well, BSL was recognised 9 years ago and everyone was celebrating that success. But it seems that things have pretty much stayed the same. People are now starting to ask, where are our rights? What about deaf rights? What about bilingual education, access to health services, more political issues? People are now talking about their place in society, not everyday life, talking about important issues.
So what do you think the BDA should be campaigning on? Should it be interpreter provision? Should it be access to education? What should it be? What's more important?
Well, I mean, the BDA has a wide range of issues to be involved in, from politics to health to the media, so it's all important. But if we have a BSL Act, this will underpin all these services and give it the status it deserves.
No, you're right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for interviewing with me today.
Thanks, I'm off back to work now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Joining me now is Markku Jokinen from Finland. He has been a tireless campaigner on the UN Convention for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and getting sign language onto the agenda. He's a very busy man, so I've managed to grab a few moments of his time to ask him a quick question. I want to know his views on training of interpreters as I have some concerns. How can we ensure a universal high-level provision of interpreters for deaf consumers?
Wow, that's a very, very big question.
Yeah.
Well, firstly, I just want to make it clear that when I'm talking about interpreters, this is your sign, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, I've used interpreters for probably 30 years now, I'd say. There are so many different domains for interpreters to work within. There are interpreters at universities, doctor's appointments, meetings at international level.
within the UN, conferences, the list goes on. The breadth of experiences for interpreters are so wide-ranging. For me, I do not pick one specific interpreter to work with all the time. In the past, I've worked with an interpreter to see if they're confident in their skills first. Can we understand each other? Do they understand me? Is their signing clear? Do we get on well? Have they got the right attitude? It's not because I want to get one over, but it's one more of support and collaboration in their work. Then over time, I will see them again and I will try them out and then support and work with them if I feel confident with them. So if I see an interpreter that needs support, I still want to work with them and develop that person. I think it's a responsibility that I have to encourage that person to further their skills. Then over time, the pool of interpreters that I work with grows and I know that they're skilled and I can use them in my work with confidence. I do have regular interpreters that I work with and feel confident in their skills. It's so important that we develop an effective working relationship. It can't just be me who picks the interpreters that I want and who I know are highly skilled. It has to be a mutual relationship where we fully understand and support each other. And I'm really grateful to my interpreters.
That's right.
I know that I have regular interpreters who I have worked with for the last 30 years, and I put my hands up to that. But I'm always keeping an eye out for new talent in the interpreting field to make sure that my supply of interpreters is constant. As we know, interpreters are all very, very different.
That's very true.
One interpreter, for example, may be highly skilled and have in-depth knowledge in one particular area, but they're not so in another. All interpreters are diverse from different backgrounds and with differing knowledge and expertise. So say, for example, there's a meeting. How do I know which interpreter would be best? One that works in universities or one that specialises in the medical field? All interpreters have a wide range of skills and experiences, and I think we should follow their strengths.
I can understand that point.
Training of interpreters is really important.
I agree.
Achieving a high level, up to degree level and beyond, is important. But at the same time, interpreters should be developing their own skills, knowledge and experiences. From my personal experience, some of the interpreter training that's out there is far too short and the standards really vary. My hopes are that in the near future, maybe 3 years, that training will be greatly improved. To compare, a typical university degree is 3 or 4 years of study.
Yeah, that's right, 3 years.
So then the person achieves, say, MA level, but interpreters only study for 1 or 2 years. That's not enough. Deaf adults and children all sign differently, and so interpreters need to have a variety of exposure to all levels of communication. Some interpreters focus on working with children or adults, and that's their right to do so. All these issues, training, experience, knowledge and so forth, combine to create good interpreters. It's not an easy task.
I agree with that point. The deaf community is so varied, the interpreter's experience is important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Marku wanted to add one more important point, so over to you.
Thank you. I just wanted to say, in my own experience, when I was studying at university and then when working at an international level, the interpreters I use would sign every word that they heard. Absolutely everything. They would process at such a speed and sign so quickly to get everything across, but now I expect a different level of service. I give the interpreters the freedom to understand the message fully and clearly and then process that message to me in clear sign language. I don't want to be assessing them to check to see if they've signed every word accurately. That's their job to process that information. I give them the space to do their job. If I was constantly checking them, it would affect the quality of the interpretation and the level of service would worsen. I let them understand the message and then interpret it. If they're struggling, then of course I would support them. But once they have the meaning, they have the freedom to interpret it their way.
We are all human after all, and we can't all understand everything perfectly all the time.
Well, the understanding is so important. If they're struggling to process, then it's a burden on me to understand it. If they understand the message, their interpretation is much more relaxed and clear.
Yes, if they understand it, they can then relay that to us.
Absolutely, and I've learned this now. I was very demanding in the past, whereas now I give them the freedom to do their jobs.
The flexibility and the space.
That's right.
Lovely, thank you.
Wow, what a day.
I know, wow, hey?
How have you felt about today?
Well, I think today has been absolutely marvellous. I mean, in my view, I have a passion with talking about BSL, which is what it's all been about. I know that it's time now that there was a collaboration to ensure that all of the views about BSL and the way forward are shared, and that we start to knock down those barriers to make sure that old people, deaf children, the youth of today are part of that discussion, to ensure that BSL breaks through all of the barriers that there are currently around us. I think it's really important that we work in collaboration, and today has been the start of that, so it's been wonderful.
And how did it feel when you met and you interviewed Prince Andrew? What was that like?
Oh, well, nerve-wracking for a start, quite last minute, so I wasn't really expecting it. And I thought very quickly, oh, what am I going to say? How am I going to be? And then I thought, well, I'll just be myself. So I introduced myself, I told him what my role was as a director of the companies and gave him some background information. He then asked me how relevant I felt today was, and I explained that it was extremely relevant in the campaign for deaf children and understanding the awareness that needs to be underpinning deaf children's futures from their hearing families to be able to support them. The other thing was I was very successful in being able to interview Marku, which was absolutely fantastic because he's been a tireless campaigner of the UN Convention, and I wanted to ask him how this was going to support interpreters in understanding how they can interpret well and improve those standards. So you'll see that later.
Indeed they will. Thank you very much, Colette.
Thank you.